We've got chaos, sheer and utter conference realignment chaos. Hey, how's it going, everybody? I am RC Maxwell here for the Back to 12 podcast, reminding you, if you haven't already, to be sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to stay in the know on Big 12 realignment and Big 12 sports in general all year long. This is primarily a Texas Tech channel, but we'll be talking about the Big 12 ad nauseum here, including sports betting as I work in the industry as well. So if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you can stay in the know right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel. But let's jump into today's video as we've got a lot to discuss, as there has been a total 180 in terms of Utah's way of thinking. And according to Jason Scheer of Wildcat Authority over on 24/7 Sports, Arizona, Arizona State, and now Utah are all likely to join the Big 12, according to his sources. We'll jump in a little bit more in depth in terms of what he's discussing here in just a second. But one more time, if you haven't liked the video and you like what's going on here with the Big 12 being aggressive, well, you should like the video and stay in the know on everything conference realignment right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel. All right, let's jump right into this. And first and foremost, before we do, got to give a ton of credit to Jason Scheer. Jason Scheer, as I've mentioned in previous videos that you've probably watched here on the channel about Big 12 conference realignment, he has been that guy when it comes down to it from the Pac-12 side of things in terms of being realistic and knowing what is going on. Okay. And he has been on top of it. He has been fantastic. I will post the link to his article down in the comments as well as the description. And if you haven't already, go give him a follow on Twitter. I'll also leave a way for you to follow him on there because he is staying on top of this and a great resource for everybody that really cares about this conference realignment stuff when it comes to the Big 12. All right, let's jump into what he had to say because there was quite a bit of good, juicy stuff in this article that he posted yesterday. This from Jason Scheer of Wildcat Authority, as I mentioned. You can read it on the bottom of your screen as well. Once the meeting was completed with this appointment, all bets were off. Schools such as Arizona, Utah, and Arizona State entered discussions with the Big 12. One source said that it would have to all fall apart for the three schools not to make the move. And the ideal plan is for the Big 12 is to make the biggest possible impact, which is announcing all three at once. One more time, one source said that it would have to fall apart for the three schools not to make the move. And the ideal plan for the Big 12 is to make the biggest possible impact, which is announcing all three at once. Scheer also said, although it is not set in stone, there could be an announcement as soon as Friday. Listen, this is what we knew was possible, right? After that TV deal was presented, and he even updated the numbers and said it was 24 and a half at the top, right? At the absolute most that the Pac-12 could get from Apple in this regard. We knew this was the possible outcome here. And now to have Utah completely have a 180, and we'll go in a little bit more depth here in just a second on that, right? This is a game changer for the Big 12, and you have to commend BY Brett Yormark in terms of his aggressiveness, but also really staying back, let this materialize, and let the Pac-12, show their hand. Like, just let them put every card out on the table and see, hey, man, you've got a 2 and a 6 right here. You got nothing. You've got absolutely nothing. You got to figure something here out. And when you look at what the Big 12 has done and what they could potentially add, and it looks like they're headed in that direction if you listen to Jason Scheer on this in terms of they are going to have 16 teams starting in 2024. Nothing set in stone yet. And as we know, when it comes to conference realignment, listen, everything can change fast. And one of my favorite quotes is from one of my favorite shows, Big Brother: expect the unexpected. And you have to do so when it comes to conference realignment. But you have to commend the Big 12 for going out, being aggressive after they were left for dead 2 years ago. And now they are going to be one of those remaining conferences and potentially one of the big Power 3 conferences, because there's a lot of shit going on in the ACC right now. Looking at you, Florida State. But right now, it looks like you are going to add in this conference realignment cycle Colorado, Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah. All four of the Four Corners schools. Just a simply phenomenal job by Britt Yormark and the Big 12. One more thing before we get into Utah, and I ask you guys a question. This from Ross Dellinger as well that I think is huge in terms of confirming what Jason Scheer had to say in terms of this could happen quickly. There is an Arizona Board of Regents meeting tonight, Thursday, August 3rd, 2023. On the agenda, possible legal advice in a discussion, regarding university athletics. I think we all know what that could possibly mean. All right, got to ask you a question. Scale of 1 to 10, how excited would you be to officially see Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah join the Big 12? Again, scale of 1 to 10, just give me a number. 10 being I'm excited as hell, RC. 1 being I could really not even care less, RC. So let me know down in the comments below. All right, I mentioned we've got more on Utah in that total 180. This more from Jason Scheer in his article saying this about Utah and their shift in thinking in terms of their loyalty to the Pac-12 and now focusing in on potentially joining the Big 12. He says, although he was hesitant at first, sources indicate Utah has done a total 180 in the last 24 hours and has become confident in its next steps. Remember, though, Harlan, their AD and everything, has pledged his loyalty to the Pac-12 multiple times, partly due to their fan base and the fact that, well, BYU is now in the Big 12. That's one of the most heated rivalry in sports, although it's cooled off here in the past decade or so, according to people that really follow that intense rivalry that was back in the day. As I mentioned, though, a 180 has happened, and it's not shocking after the TV deal was presented earlier this week. And when you look at everything, at the end of the day, this feels like the right way for things to go down. Again, nothing 100% set in stone, but Jason Scheer has been on top of this, and now you got an Arizona Board of Regents meeting. Utah is reportedly doing a 180. It's no coincidence this is happening after the numbers that were presented to these Pac-12 schools that were vastly underwhelming, and it makes you question, how am I going to have a functioning athletic department that doesn't require layoffs and maybe cutting of programs, right? If you move to the Big 12, which will give you $32 million base a year from their media rights deal, you can keep everything you have in place right now if you were the Pac-12, right? And who says that these things don't, accelerate, and after your deal is over right now with the Big 12, you get even more money by staying in this conference long term, because who knows what happens to the ACC, right? But when it comes down to it, this is the right way for things to go down in terms of the Big 12 adding all 4 corner schools, adding that rivalry of Utah and BYU, keeping the Arizona schools together, really implementing your footprint and making a bigger one on the left side of the country when you're facing the map on the West Coast, right? Like, this is a big deal for the Big 12. And not to mention, I think this helps Arizona, Arizona State, Utah. This is a mutual thing. Now you can come in and recruit Texas. Now you can go in and recruit Florida even at a higher level, right? In terms of, hey, we're going to be playing schools from there. Okay, so now you have a little bit more of a recruiting base there and a lot more aspects that really cause fluidity within the conference, and also just help the Big 12 establish themselves as a legit national brand. So I think it goes both ways. Now, again, want to preface everything by saying this. It's not 100% set in stone, but it is clearly going that way. And when Jason Scheer and other national beat writers are saying this could happen as soon as Friday, there's obviously something going on. And also the Arizona Board of Regents meeting discussing athletics. There's something going on here. Okay, and it is going to happen sooner rather than later, especially since the Big Ten is now involved in showing some of their hand in terms of going after Oregon and Washington. They said they could go after Cal and Stanford, but really their eye and their prize in this, in terms of the Big Ten, is Oregon and Washington. Now, some renegotiations for the Big 12 will have to be done if they do go to 16 teams, because currently with their Fox contract, a full payout only goes to 14 teams. I really wouldn't worry about that if I was anybody. ESPN and the Big 12, they have a full payout with 16 teams, so it would only be a negotiation with Fox between the Big 12. And I think that that would happen because Fox, well, they're going to like adding Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, Colorado. They're going to like doing that, okay? So I think that that would happen relatively quickly if you ask me. But before we get out of here, I want to hear from you guys. Let me hear it. What is your take on the Big 12 possibly going to 16 teams? Just let me know. Let me know down in the comments what you think in terms of what's going on here. But before we head out, I want to leave you guys with this one more Jason Scheer quote. He said, I think Arizona is heavily leaning towards the Big 12. I believe we are headed in that direction. That was from yesterday. Okay. And now you get the reports of this on August 3rd. Look at what's going on right here. The cards and the signs are very telling. It looks like all indications as it stands right now that Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah will soon join the Big 12. And listen, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell while you're at it too, to stay in the know on Big 12 realignment, whether that's breaking news, rumors, whatever it may be. We've got you covered right here on your one-stop shop for everything Big 12 realignment and Texas Tech football and men's basketball as well. Of course, I'm talking about the Back to 12 podcast channel.